The knock didn't sound human at first. It was too soft, too desperate, like knuckles afraid of making noise, like a secret begging not to be discovered. At 4:30 a.m., the world is supposed to be still. No cars, no voices, just the hum of a refrigerator and the quiet ache of unfinished dreams. I almost didn't answer. And sometimes I wonder who I would be today if I hadn't. I was standing barefoot on the cold tile, heart pounding when I looked through the peephole. Two small shapes stood on my porch, hunched and trembling beneath the flickering porch light. Pajamas. No coats. No shoes. My niece's hair was matted with sleep, my nephew's lips tinged blue. For a moment my brain refused to make sense of it. My brother's kids. Here. Alone. Dawn. I yanked the door open, and the cold rushed in like a living thing. "Aunt Mara," my niece whispered, her voice cracking like glass. "Daddy said you'd help." I pulled them inside without thinking, wrapping them in my arms, feeling how cold their bodies were, how light. The door slammed shut behind us, and the silence felt louder than the knock had been. My nephew started crying then, the kind of cry that comes from deep inside, from fear and exhaustion and hunger all mixed together. I carried him to the couch, grabbed blankets, turned the heat up too high. My hands shook as I moved. "Where are your parents?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. They looked at each other. My niece swallowed. "They went to Uncle Ray's party. Mommy said it would be just overnight." Overnight. In January. In pajamas. Anger rose so fast it scared me. My brother, Caleb. Golden boy Caleb. The one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. The one who borrowed money he never repaid. Who laughed off responsibility like it was optional. I hadn't spoken to him in months. Not since he told me I was too emotional when I confronted him about yelling at the kids. Now this. I made hot chocolate, hands still trembling, watched color return slowly to their faces. My apartment smelled like cocoa and fear. As they sipped, I studied them. Dark circles under their eyes, my niece's hands shaking despite the warmth. Something had been wrong for longer than tonight. I could feel it. "Did this happen before?" I asked quietly. My niece hesitated, then nodded. "Sometimes they leave. Sometimes mommy doesn't come back until the sun's up." Something inside me cracked open. I thought of all the times I'd been told to mind my business, to stop judging, to let Caleb live his life. I thought of my own life. 38, divorced, working 2 jobs to keep this small apartment, constantly told I was too much, too loud, too angry. And here were 2 children who had been taught, somehow, that this was normal. I put them to bed in my room, tucked them in with my extra blankets. As I turned off the light, my niece grabbed my wrist. "Please don't tell Daddy," she whispered. "He'll be mad." I promised her something I wasn't sure I could keep. When the sun finally began to rise, pale and uncertain, my phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. "They with you. We needed a break." I stared at the screen, rage burning behind my eyes. Break. That's what he called abandoning his children in the freezing dark. I typed back slowly, "We need to talk." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then nothing. I stood by the window, watching the morning wake up, realizing with a sinking certainty that this night wasn't an accident. It was a line being crossed. And once crossed, it could never be uncrossed. Behind me the kids slept fitfully, safe for now. But I knew deep down that protecting them would cost me something. Maybe everything. And I wasn't sure yet how far I was willing to go. Caleb showed up just after noon, sunglasses on, smelling like alcohol and cheap cologne, acting like the world hadn't almost frozen his children to death. He knocked like he owned the place. When I opened the door, he smiled, actually smiled. "There they are," he said lightly, stepping past me. "Kids, come on, let's go home." I blocked his path. For the first time in my life, I didn't soften my voice. "No," I said. He laughed, confused. "What?" "They're not going anywhere with you," I repeated. My heart was racing, but my feet stayed planted. "Not today." His smile vanished. "Don't start, Mara. You always do this. You think you're better than everyone." "I think you left your kids to freeze," I said. The words tasted sharp and true. He rolled his eyes. Drama. They were fine. You're overreacting like always. The kid stood behind me, silent, watching. My niece's fingers were clenched in my sweater. Get out, I said. That's when he exploded. Accusations, insults, old wounds dragged into the light. Failed marriage. Dead-end jobs. You're alone for a reason. Each word was meant to cut, and some of them still did. But then he said something that changed everything. If you call anyone, he hissed, you'll never see them again. Called his bluff. Child services arrived 2 hours later. I watched as Caleb's confidence crumbled under questions and documentation, as his wife, Lena, arrived furious, blaming everyone but herself. She didn't look at the kids once. When they asked if I could take them temporarily, my mouth answered before my fear could stop it. Yes. That night, after the paperwork and the tears, after the kids were asleep again, reality hit me like a wave. I couldn't afford this. My job barely tolerated my existence. My landlord didn't allow long-term guests. And yet, the thought of sending them back made my chest ache. Days turned into weeks. School drop-offs, doctor visits, nightmares. My boss warned me I was losing focus. My ex-husband called, suddenly interested, suddenly judgmental. My parents told me to stop embarrassing the family. I cried in the shower so the kids wouldn't hear. But something else happened too. Kids laughed more. They slept through the night. My apartment felt warmer, fuller. And slowly, painfully, I realized something. I wasn't just rescuing them. I was choosing myself, the woman who wouldn't look away anymore. Then one evening a letter arrived. Caleb was contesting custody, claiming I'd manipulated the situation, claiming I was unstable. My hands shook as I read it. He was coming for them. And this time he wasn't knocking. The custody hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, the same day my boss told me I'd be let go if I missed another shift. I wore my best blouse, the one that made me feel like I belonged in serious rooms. My niece braided my hair that morning, her small fingers careful and focused. You're brave, she said quietly. Almost broke then. In court, Caleb played the victim perfectly. Charming, regretful, promising change. Lena cried on cue. My past was dissected, divorce, therapy, anxiety. I felt naked under fluorescent lights, my flaws laid out like evidence. Then the social worker spoke. Teacher. The pediatrician. Patterns emerged. Stories aligned. And finally my niece was allowed to speak. Her voice was soft but steady. Aunt Mara doesn't forget us, she said. She opens the door. Something shifted in the room. The judge ruled in my favor. Temporary custody extended, mandatory supervision for the parents. It wasn't permanent, but it was enough. Caleb didn't look at me as he passed. Lena did, just once, her expression unreadable. That night, after mac and cheese and homework, after the kids fell asleep, I sat alone on the couch. Exhausted, terrified, proud. I didn't know what the future held. Money problems, legal battles, loneliness, but I knew one thing for certain. I would never ignore a knock in the dark again. Because sometimes, the moment that breaks you is also the one that proves who you really are. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the answer.